Hello, dear students. Today is the fourth unit we are going to study. It's about the ecosystem at the food chain. We all know that the ecosystem it includes human, animals, and the buildings and whatever the environment around us is called as the ecosystem. Now, first, that is with the definition of the ecosystem. It is the ecosystem is a community of living organism like biotic and abiotic factors we can see in that, and it is a self-sustained and independent systems. Now in this ecosystem, the second is structure. It is of two types: structure of ecosystem and function of ecosystem. Now the structure of ecosystem, it is mainly of two types: abiotic factor or abiotic component and the biotic component. Here in the biotic component, there is a physical and the chemical components. In physical components and chemical components are included in biotic and abiotic components. It includes in structure. And the second thing is the function. In the function, there are food chain, food web. In functions, we can say food chain, food web, energy flow, nutrient cycle, ecological pyramid, and the biochemical cycle. Now, food chain, as we all know that the food chain starts from the growing of grass. For example, if we take for the food chain, the human being are consumed, or the human being consumes grains, wheat. So they are come from the crop, and the crop. So this is called as the food chain. One feeds to another, feeds another. It's like a chain, and therefore it is called as the food chain. Now, the next topic that we are going to study here is the type of ecosystem. Now, there are the types of ecosystem. There are the two types of ecosystem that you are going to study. One is the terrestrial ecosystem and another is the aquatic ecosystem. Now, in the terrestrial ecosystem, it is mainly divided into the forest ecosystem, grassland ecosystem, desert ecosystem, and the cropland ecosystems. All examples are given, and you are also known with these examples, that what is the forest ecosystem mainly contributes the trees, shrubs, and the animals which are present in the forest, the decomposers. Here you can say any forest which is in the famous example is the Amazon rainforest. The next is the grassland ecosystem. Here it is the grassland mainly contributes the grasses and the herbivorous. So these are the main dominated ecosystem that therefore it is called as the grassland ecosystem. Now next is the desert ecosystem, where there is a low rain. Vegetation is very scary. For example, Sahara desert. So this is the example of desert ecosystem. And the last one is the cropland. Here actually it is based on the agriculture. For example, we can see, as I have told you, that the wheat and the rice, we can say, or the paddy fields. So these contributes towards the cropland ecosystem. Now the next is the aquatic ecosystem. In this aquatic ecosystem, it is based on the ocean, which includes the coral oceans, seas. For example, Atlantic Ocean. And the next is the freshwater ecosystem. In aquatic ecosystem, there are two: marine ecosystem and freshwater ecosystem. In the freshwater ecosystem, there are lake, rivers, ponds, streams. These are the examples of freshwater system. Now the next, this is all are well explained in the notes or in the environmental book, which is which is already provided to you. Now the next one is the food chain and the ecological parameters. Now here the food chain, as I have told you, food chain is a linear sequence of organisms where each organism is consumed by the next, transforming energy from one level to another. So there are three types of main food chains are there. First one is the grazing food chain. Second one is the detritus food chain, and the last one is the parasitic food chain. Now, the first, that is the grazing food chain, it starts with the producer like plants, which are consumed by the herbivorous. So, for example, we can say the grass, deer, and the tiger. So, it is the one type of or this is the one type of the food chain which is comes under the grazing food chains. Now, this grazing food chains are of type terrestrial grazing food chain, aquatic grazing food chain, mixed grazing food chain, and microbial grazing food chain. So these are the main four types of food chains. There are the main subtypes of grazing food chain in the grazing food chain: terrestrial, aquatic, mixed, and microbial. So this is the small example which is shown by the diagram here. Now next one is the detritus food chain. Now this detritus food chain, it is having three types. For example, forest floor detritus food chain, aquatic detritus food chain, and the soil detritus food chain. So these are the three main types of detritus food chain which are well explained in your notes, which is provided to you, which is already provided to you. Now the third one is the parasitic food chain. Now this is the diagram which is showing the parasitic food chain. Again, it is being subdivided into five types: ectoparasitic food chain, endoparasitic food chain, single host parasitic food chain, multi-host parasitic food chain, and the last one is hyperparasitic food chain. So these are the types of food chain which comes under the parasitic food chain. Now parasites are being consumed, they are not consumed, they are the part of the host, and depending upon that there are the five subtypes are there. Now, the next that we are going to study is the food web in the forest and the grassland ecosystem. Food web in the forest and the grassland ecosystem, a complex network of interconnected food chain is in a forest. A deer may be a part of multiple chains, feeding on plant and becoming a prey of different predators. So ecological pyramid, pyramid on numbers, pyramids on biomass, and pyramid on energy. These are the three main pyramid. Here in the number, we can say it is a depict the number of organism to each tropic level. Whereas in the biomass, it is illustrated the total biomass of the organism at each level. In the energy, it shows the energy flow at each tropic level. Now we are going to understand what do you mean by energy flow in the ecosystem. Actually, it is of Y shape. The energy flow, it is a unidirectional matter from the producer to the top consumer, losing energy as heat at each tropic level is it's according is it is about it is accordance with the laws of thermodynamics, or it is provided with the laws of thermodynamics. So here, for example, we can say the energy flow and the law of thermodynamics are well connected with each other. Here in the laws of thermodynamics, there are first law of thermodynamics, zero law of thermodynamics, and the second law of thermodynamics. In the first law, the energy cannot be created or destroyed, only transfer from one form to another form. In the second law, during the energy transfer, some energy is lost as heat. So, and these are the diagram which are showing you the energy flow or the ecosystem. The next part that we are going to study is the biogeochemical cycles. In this biogeochemical cycles, as the name indicates, bio, geo, and chemical. So these is the mixture of three things, that is bio, geo, and chemical. So it is essential elements circulate through the ecosystem involving biological, geological, and chemical processes. These cycles are gaseous cycles and sedimentary cycles. Now, in the gaseous cycles, as we all know, there are oxygen, carbon, and nitrogen in the atmosphere, and they undergo a cycle that is also called as the oxygen cycle, carbon cycle, and nitrogen cycle. Whereas in the sedimentary cycle, it involves the elements like phosphorus and sulfur, which are present in the lithosphere. So, in the gaseous cycle, oxygen cycle, it is related with the plant during the photosynthesis, and the organism it uses as in the respiration. In the carbon dioxide or in the carbon cycle, the carbon dioxide is used by the plant and they transfer it into the food chain and return to the atmosphere uh, in the form of oxygen mainly, which is used for the animals or living being for the respiration. Now, the next is the nitrogen cycle. This nitrogen cycle is very much important for the plants, animals. Now, mainly it is important for the plants because it includes the nitrogen fixation, nitrification, denitrification, and converting nitrogen into the gaseous form and the form of organisms. Now, in the sedimentary cycles, the phosphorus cycles and the sulfur cycles, this is the short diagrams which are given to you, providing that the phosphorus cycle and the sulfur cycle, they are the part of lithosphere and the atmosphere. There's a biosphere. The some of the cycle, it is takes place inside the rocks and some of or inside the earth surface and above the earth surface. So the phosphorus cycles moves through the rocks, water, soil, and living organism. These plants absorb the phosphorus from the soil. Similarly to the sulfur cycle, it circulates between the earth and the atmosphere through volcanic activities, fossil fuels combustion, and the decompositions. Now, this is all well explained in your notes. So kindly go through the notes which are being already supplied to you. Thank you. Thank you once again.